I rise today despite the uncomfortability of this vote, because for me, it comes down to whether or not kids should be able to get these surgeries. And despite the fact that I am a liberal, the question before us is whether or not children under the age of 18 should be able to get these surgeries.
Well, good for you for standing up against your own Democrat Party. Like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you get notification anytime I go live, make a video. Make sure you still subscribe to this channel. Like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Let's get into this. Ladies and gentlemen, and ladies, New Hampshire House passes ban on gender-affirming surgery for minors. Now, this is a no-brainer. There's no way in the world any cognitively responsible adult would think that minors should be able to have irreversible surgeries and irreversible hormone injections and all of these different things. Because what typically happens to these young people is that if you give them good guidance and counseling and they deal with their trauma and issues, they normally grow out of these phases. The phases of being gay, the phases of wanting to be trans, not feeling included, feeling alone. They end up getting the young girls get their hormones together. They typically grow out of it. Boys go through puberty. They typically grow out of it. All of these things grow out of it. They can grow out of it. My English is bad today, but anyway, you know what I'm saying. All of these different occurrences, these kids are able to grow out of these things. They don't waddle in them. But what happens is, if you want to lock them in, you give them hormone blockers, or puberty blockers. You give them hormones. You get castration. You castrate them, or you get rid of their breasts, and you do things to them that's irreversible. So they'll never grow out of it because they have a vested interest to be caught up in it. But let me tell you where I get the news from, and thank God for Ground.News. And that's why I love Ground.News, because you can get the stories, and you don't just get the stories, you get context behind the stories as well. So I found this on Ground.News, and it says it right here: New Hampshire passed a ban on gender-affirming surgery for minors. Thank God that they did. But let me show you the thing that is just as important to me. There are different sections on Ground.News that show you biases, headlines. You could get so much more than just listening to or reading the article. You can get the context of how this is important in the political realm. Everybody in America should be reporting on this. But why is it, when you look at the bias distribution, that it's 43% right wing and 43% center and 14% left? Why is that? This is a major event. This legislation was passed, and Democrats had to participate in it. And also, you can go through and look at the headlines. And right here, it will show you which side is on. Center, leaning right, leaning center, leaning right, leaning left. And then you can see the differences in the titles. Look at the center leaning. New Hampshire House vote ban gender reassignment surgery for minors. Right leaning. Some New Hampshire Democrats join GOP in passing ban on child gender transition surgeries. Then you go to the left. New Hampshire passes bill to ban gender-affirming care for minors, sending bill to the Senate. Gender-affirming care to minors. They try to soften it up, in my opinion. But then you can also go to the factuality. 71% of the sources are high factuality. You can see that here. You can see the ownership. 0% independent news. This is mostly mainstream news that's reporting on this. And you can go to similar topics. You can click them. And as you click them, you can build your own interests. So if it's things you're interested in, like the LGBTQ, politics, you name it, you can add it there to make your own little conglomerate search. And also, I want to talk about the blind spot here. And this is another thing that I think is conducive for you to see. It's funny, look, they got two Trump things. It's blind spots from the left and for the right. And this says Wyoming for the left. Wyoming judge dismisses efforts to bar Trump from the ballot. Democrats need to pay attention to this. They're getting blindsided. On the right, Supreme Court will hear appeal of Trump's ballot disqualification in Colorado, which will lead to a decision that could remove Trump from the ballot and could change the trajectory of how other states proceed if the Supreme Court gives validation to the Colorado banning. But this is a great way to see that the blind sides from our side, the right side, and their side, the left side, depending on where you stand. Go to ground.news/Tatum. That's ground.news/Tatum. And if you click on my link, the link is in the description. If you click on my link, you'll get 30% off unlimited access this month only. So take advantage of it today. Ground.news/Tatum. Hit my link. You'll get 30% off this month only. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to play this clip real quick of the actual meeting where there's a Democrat that had to contend with the stupidity in his own party, and he actually challenged his own party, which I think was an amazing clip. Roll the clip.
I rise today despite the uncomfortability of this vote, because for me, it comes down to whether or not kids should be able to get these surgeries. And despite the fact that I am a liberal, despite the fact that I believe in non-discrimination for trans people, for gay people, for queer people, and that I will fight until my very last day, until they are recognized as human beings.
Now show me a planet where gay people, trans people aren't recognized as human beings. This why, like, I like what he said about standing up, but why do you got to be that ignorant? What are you even saying, my man, to make them humans?
The question before us is whether or not children under the age of 18 should be able to get these surgeries. And I, despite being a liberal who believes in those human rights,
I'm a liberal, but I don't agree with it, but I'm a liberal anyway.
do not think that is the case. And when the question is put before me, and I spoke to people until 11:30 last night, lobbyists, different stakeholders, people with firsthand experience, lived experience, and I've been speaking to people for the last 4 weeks about this bill, the only argument against it being that this opens the amendment specifically opens the door to other bad trans bills. But folks, the slippery slope fallacy I don't think applies here. We're talking about whether or not kids should get these surgeries, and they should not. These are irreversible surgeries. And despite the fact that there are medical exceptions which are included in this amendment, when people have problems with their genitals that need to be addressed, that should be addressed. But when we're talking about whether or not kids should get these surgeries, I think that goes a bridge too far, and I will not be signing on to that. So I will be supporting this amendment, and I appreciate the work done in the Health and Human Services Committee. They worked very diligently.
All right, now he got to play politics. I'm glad he had made mention that he disagreed. Thank God that he disagreed. I don't know how any adult could look their children in the eye, look America in the eye, look their state in the eye, and say it makes total sense that a person under 18 can't drive. They can't, I mean, you can drive 16 with a permit, but you can't go out and get your driver's license on your own. You can't buy alcohol. You can't join the military. You can't buy a gun. You can't rent a car. You can't have a bank account. You can't do any of these things that I would argue would be beneficial to you if you could do it at a younger age, potentially, if you're mature enough. You can't do any of these things, but you can go get irreversible genital surgery. Therefore, when you get older, you may say, man, when I was 15, I didn't know what was going on in my life, and now I have a change of heart. Do you know what I thought when I was 15 compared to being a 30-some-year-old man? I was in another world. How would I make a final decision for my life at 15? 15. I'm still living with my mama and them. 15, bruh. I'm not even finished high school. And I'm going to make a decision for my entire life that I could never change. There is nothing in life that children should be able to make as a final decision at 15. I don't even think people should make final decisions at 30. 15? You can't get married. You definitely shouldn't be having sex with adults. It's a lot of things. You shouldn't be watching certain TV shows. Rated R. You can't watch rated R videos when you're 15. Like, it's a lot of stuff you can't do. Why? Because you're not mentally mature enough to receive that information. Who thinks that makes sense? You don't even got to be a Christian. You don't have to be a Republican to think this. It's called common sense. Anyway, shout out to the man here. Even though the wackest thing I ever heard him say was, I'll fight to the last breath to make sure that queer people are humans. Shut the front door. Anyway, I'll see y'all on the next one. I'm out.